What's going on, everybody? You're watching Straight Facts with Ritchie and Ciro. I'm Sir, my boy.
Richie.
Let's get straight into the facts. Kick it off for us, Richie.
All right, so we'll be starting off with our NBA honors today, and starting off with the Most Improved Player of the Year award. And one of my candidates is Montrezl Harrell, who improved in points per game and rebounds per game. Going back to the 2017-2018 season, he had 11. This year at 16.5. Then with rebounds, he went from 4 to 6.5, and he's also shooting 61.3% from the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge improvement. Of course, we've talked about our honors before in a couple episodes, but now since it's the end of the season, this is when they matter the most because some players you'll see have dropped off on the list. Even some winners aren't even in our lists for some categories. But a guy like Montrezl Harrell, 2 years ago was kind of when he started getting that spark, and now that he's playing more minutes, like you mentioned when we were talking about it. He's getting the minutes that he needs to finally get that power, and I don't think he's going to win it this year, but maybe even has an even better season next year because he could see a starting role throughout the whole season for sure, and that could definitely just help him overall. So to see somebody like him put up those numbers, it's definitely a most improved candidate. But I already have my pick set in stone.
Right. And another surprising stat was that he's 22nd in player efficiency rating, not among power forwards, but in the NBA.
Yeah, that's
And also
ridiculous.
he had 17 double-doubles and had 0 last season, so he's improved in many ways. Another candidate of mine was the shooting guard from the Sacramento Kings, Buddy Hield, who last season averaged 13.5 points, now up to 20.8. With the rebounding, went from 3.8 to 5, and he's also one of the top scorers in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a top 5 shooting guard in my books. He has a great field goal percentage for the most part, and he really
45.8.
he really gets it done for sure. And one thing with Buddy is his minutes went big time, and his potential was finally seen because when he was drafted by the Pelicans, I mean, he was already a college player of the year at Oklahoma.
So there was a lot of expectations.
There was a lot of expectations. People were calling him the next LeBron James. I remember. That's what the Kings that's what the Kings management saw too when they traded DeMarcus Cousins for him. But now he's seen to be worth it, to be honest, because if you look at it, Cousins is being a 5th option in fourth option, you can say, in Golden State, and while Buddy is led them to one of their best seasons since 2006.
Yep.
So he definitely did a good job overall. But the one thing that it is that I mentioned, my winner, there's just one thing that's different between Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield had a lot of expectations. Pascal Siakam didn't have a lot of expectations. Nope. The 27th pick of the draft, and to see where he came today, spit it down.
And the power forward from the Raptors is averaging career highs in points, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, 3-point percentage, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals. And some interesting stats here are really the shooting numbers that went from last season 50 to 54, 62 to 78 from the free throw line, and 22 to 36 from the 3-point line.
Yeah, I mean, he's even a very consistent shooter, you could say, for a big man. I mean, if you want to pass it on him behind the arc, he's there for it.
He doesn't take much, but
when he does, it's not like he's Kuzma. I'd rather have him shoot the ball than Kuzma, because Kuzma goes 2 for 13.
Yeah.
Kuzma's 3-point percentage is atrocious.
And also plays no defense.
Yeah, no defense. Rebound. That's why I had Siakam over Kuzma, because Kuzma, his numbers look like this: 19, 3, and 3. You're a power forward. You're not a small forward.
Right.
And Siakam, as you mentioned, he's able to get it done on both sides of the court, and he's able to. I mean, just what I love about him so much is he went from last year, who wasn't even in double digits and anything, and now 16, close to 17 points per game.
Yep, just point one off.
And he's playing great this year, and he's on a team that it's going to matter the most. That's another thing that's big. His improvement has not only helped himself, but his team. Harrell's team, of course. But they didn't really. It wasn't his improvement that completely helped them. Of course,
it was
a team effort. And Doc Rivers playing some great parts.
Even though they lost Tobias Harris, there was many guys that.
And that's what's awesome about
Gallinari, Lou Williams, of course.
Yeah, I mean, you wish that Chandler wasn't hurt, so maybe he could have helped them. But I really don't think it could have fit because he's a good shooter. But Gallinari's been doing a great job as well, and same with Williams, of course. And of course, Gilgeous-Alexander's kind of stepped down a little than what he was, because I was a huge fan of him, but his defense is still there. But really, Harrell's kind of points to it isn't even close to Siakam's help to his team, just because he does it all, and he stayed as a starting spot this whole season. And I was surprised, even when they got Gasol, I was expecting Ibaka to go to the floor and Siakam come off the bench. I didn't want that. It didn't happen. I was surprised, and his play time stayed, and his improvement just kept going up.
Another thing I wanted to point out is I don't think the Raptors would be the number 2 seed if Siakam hadn't played this well.
Nope, I agree. If
I don't
he
know
put
where
on a
they would
season
be.
like last year,
I would think they'd be in the playoffs, of course, but
like a 5 seed.
I don't know if a 2 seed.
Yeah, because I mean that's something that they fed off of so much. Because it's not he's like a Draymond Green, but he scores way
and
better.
He stepped up when Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard missed games.
Yeah, especially Kawhi not wanting to play against.
22 games he missed this season.
By that stay home and watch TV injury.
Yep.
But for sure, I agree with you on that. I don't think that they would be going far if that's what ended up happening.
So heading over to our next award here, Coach of the Year, and I have the Indiana Pacers head coach Nate McMillan as one of my candidates. He led the Pacers to the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference, 48 wins, 34 losses, and it was kind of a do-your-job thing for the Pacers.
It was surprising.
It was step up, and that is exactly what those guys did. Bojan Bogdanovic averaging 18 points while shooting nearly 50% from the field. Darren Collison with 11 points, 6 dimes, and Miles Turner, one of the top defenders in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, what we talked about was both of us expected the Pacers to drop to maybe the 8th seed.
Right.
And McMillan did a great job on securing that. I mean, losing Oladipo people gotta realize, it's huge.
He missed 46 games.
He was the top player, let alone not only being, to the Pacers, but just in the league. And to have him go out in the most important part of the season, it was right before the All-Star break.
Yep.
And to have that, they kept it going. Because before the All-Star break, they actually won a couple of the last games, and they just kept going. It was so surprising.
They were in the 3rd
They were the
at one
third spot.
point.
They were
in the 3rd spot.
They were the 3rd spot. And that's when we thought, it did happen. We thought the Celtics were going to go to the 3, or at least move up. And same with the Nets. We thought the Nets were going to move up. We thought the Nets were going to move up too, but that didn't happen. They stayed behind them, but at least they weren't the 8th seed.
And also the bench, Domantas Sabonis, who is a 6th Man of the Year candidate, and also Corey Joseph had some big games for them.
And even last year, Sabonis was a most improved candidate as well, and he looks even better this year. That's what's surprising.
His minutes are increasing as well, because with Oklahoma City, he would start, but he'd play 15, 20 minutes per game.
Just because of Cantor.
Right.
And of course, with the Pacers, I mean, one thing that it's tough is starting Thad Young, because Young has had, I mean, it's a good season for him, but an off season for a starting power forward over Sabonis.
Right.
Because, I mean, he kind of just reminds me of, not even close to as bad as Gortat over Harrell, but when that was happening, it was like, why are you even, doing this? He should definitely be over. But some guys, they do that whole thing where they play 5 minutes and start. I would honestly rather come off the bench and play more. I mean, I think that's a gimme. Right. But yeah, I definitely have McMillan. Yeah, of course. And that's I love Zubac. I mean, he's definitely improved a lot. I think maybe next year he could be a most improved candidate. Definitely. Just because, I mean, he kind of got his spark at the end of the season, the last 30, 40 games where he was started playing really good.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely have McMillan as a candidate. I think I have him as my number 2.
And as for my number 2, I have Mike Malone, the head coach of the Denver Nuggets, who led his team to the 2nd best team in the Western Conference, 54 wins, 28 losses, and he did this with players missing significant time.
Absolutely.
Will Barton missed 40 games, Gary Harris 26 games, Paul Millsap 13, and your first-round pick, Michael Porter Jr., isn't even going to play this season. But you had 2 big guys step up, and that was Nikola Jokic, who was an MVP candidate maybe 20, 30 games ago.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray, your starting point guard, who's had the best season of his career, and also you have great depth in your bench.
Well, I like how you touched on the Michael Porter thing. I mean, that was the 13th pick, I believe. That's a huge. That's huge. I mean, there's a lot of guys that were past that I would.
And that family really can't catch a break.
No, they really.
The younger brother, what is he out with a torn ACL, and then the 2 sisters, they can't even play basketball anymore because of their injuries.
I mean, that whole I loved watching Michael Porter when he was at Nathan Hale. It was really cool. I mean, he came to hoop ball, and Brandon Roy is the coach. Well, was the coach, so that was cool to see. But Michael Porter, he has so much potential, and he didn't even get to touch the court.
You just wonder if he can stay healthy, or wonder if he can even have that same bounce.
If he can even play, let alone
with that back injury, how is that
going
to affect his bounce?
I was surprised that they even took him. I mean, he didn't even get to play that much at Mizzou. He really didn't.
Because I think teams knew that he probably wasn't ready, or they didn't know if he was going to play much.
I don't think the Nuggets even watched him.
Because they were saying he might be back in January, or he might be out.
Yeah, we talked about that, in January, that maybe he'll come back this month.
It was why would he come back in January, but then not come back for the remainder of the season?
It's so dumb.
So it was kind of weird.
Yeah, but overall, Malone did a great job at leading his team to the 2 seed. At one point, the 1 seed for the most of the season.
Right.
And it was so cool to see such a team that was good, but they were so unhealthy. I mean, even Beasley stepped up.
Their defense wasn't really that great last season. I believe they finished in the 9th or 10th seed.
Yeah.
And this season, their defense has improved a bit, and Jokic and Murray have had fantastic seasons.
Incredible season. I mean, Murray kind of started off crazy. I think it was the big 40 bomb against the Celtics that kind of put him up, that put him up big. The
Kyrie,
biggest thing, he
Kyrie
took the ball. That
in
was
the
funny.
stands.
That was like the most memorable moment about it. Not even him dropping it. He just
Right.
tossed the
No
ball
one cared
out.
about that.
Didn't he get fined?
Yep, he got fined.
That was funny. But like the Nuggets overall, we can say it's safe to say like I can agree with you putting him at 2. I just think that what McMillan did with his team is just
because he didn't have as much talent.
Absolutely.
Like they don't really have a
Even-
quote unquote star.
Yeah, even with Oladipo there, their bench there's no depth to it really. Other than Sabonis, I mean.
And Joseph sometimes.
Yeah, for the most. I mean, Joseph was better like his last season in Toronto, but like if he can improve for sure, he'll be big.
Right. And our top candidate, I think this is your top candidate
Absolutely.
as well. Mike Budenholzer in his first year with the Bucks
Former Hawks coach.
led Milwaukee to the best record in the NBA, the only team to reach 60 wins. 60 wins, 22 losses. They also averaged the most points per game in the NBA. And of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the MVP candidate, had an amazing season. Of course, Chris Middleton really broke out. He had an all-star season. Brook Lopez became a three-point threat, a defensive presence
And just
in
there
the
for the
paint,
blocks.
a shot blocker. Brogdon, of course, one of the most efficient players in the NBA, had that
Overall,
had that 50, 40, 90 season. And I think the Bucks, they may have the best depth in the NBA coming off their bench.
We've talked about it a lot too. I mean, DJ Wilson, Ilyasova, Mirotic, and even George Hill at times. I mean, that team.
Tony Snell.
Yeah, Snell for sure. I mean,
'Cause he can hit
he's
the
kind
three.
of had a tough career, especially with the Bulls. I remember that, but like his three's there for sure. But overall, with the Bucks, what I talk about, I mean, Budenholzer kind of won one with the Hawks, brought them 60
He did
wins.
it first with Atlanta.
He did it first, 60
then he got
wins,
beat by
and then
LeBron.
kind of. In the
No,
it's the conference finals, but it's okay. But Budenholzer, he's the guy that deserves it. Not only does he lead the team to the best record, but he also gets it done where everybody looks good on that team. There's not one player on that team that I can say that doesn't look like they improve.
No, everyone
improved.
Everyone is impactful. Everyone is helpful.
Absolutely.
For that team.
And I'm still. Is there any word on Mirotic?
I don't know if he's gonna be back for
the first round.
For the first round.
And Brogdon won't be back first round,
He
right?
might miss the first 2 rounds actually.
Yeah, that was big. I mean,
that's really tough for Milwaukee
if
because
they
he's a
can-
high IQ player.
He's very important.
Very efficient.
But Middleton should be able to come up clutch and do what he has to do for sure.
Because Middleton and Giannis last season, even though they lost in the first round,
They
7
looked
games
great.
to the Celtics,
They looked great.
Giannis and Middleton were fantastic.
Yeah. And now Bledsoe, Bledsoe's literally biggest moment was saying, "Who's Terry Rozier?" That's literally the biggest thing he did in that playoffs.
Yeah.
But hopefully this year, those guys just play way better than they did last year and get past that first round. Of course, it was a tough competition. That heart that Celtics had, that's like untouchable. You can't really beat that. I mean, Brad Stevens, he's been doing that his whole coaching career, so he really did a good job with that. But yeah, I definitely have Budenholzer as my coach of the year.
Me too. Heading over to our next award now, and it is Comeback Player of the Year. And one of my candidates was Derrick Rose, who averaged 18 points per game, which is the most since the 2016-2017 season. Also shot a career-high 37% from behind the three-point line. We saw him put up a career-high 50 points in that win over Utah on October 31st. And we saw as he was dealing with ankle and knee injuries all throughout his career, and he only played 25 games with 2 teams in the 2017-2018 season, only averaged 7.8 points. But this season played 51 and was really helpful to this Timberwolves team.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Rose is probably my second favorite of all time behind Allen Iverson. And I just love watching Derrick Rose. I mean, the stuff that he's done in his career. And it's great to see him kind of back. But the reason why I wouldn't give it to him, not only because he didn't get on the level of our other candidate,
And he didn't
play enough games, really. Was he under 40? I mean, under 50?
51.
51, yeah. So that's tough. Of course, I think that it would have been more reasonable for him to get it if he played more. Just because, I mean, we're talking about an MVP winner.
And he might be one of the only MVP winners to not make it to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
that could be, right?
It's tough. I mean, honestly, I hope he does what Allen Iverson didn't do, and that's join a team your last year and just get that ring. Because that's what I wanted Allen Iverson to do. I wanted him to get a ring. So yes, he got into the Hall of Fame for sure.
Just go to the Warriors.
But yeah, seriously, literally, your last year, go to the Warriors
or go to the Bucks
or the
Bucks
Bucks,
are gonna
any
win.
team. I mean, I think he'd fit the Bucks actually a lot. But overall, this is just a player that has gone through the bumps in the road that you just don't want to face as an NBA All-Star, Superstar, all of that. And now...
But it's good to see him bounce back so well this season, even though he missed, a good amount of time, but still. I'm happy to see that. But our top candidate was Zach LaVine,
100%.
who averaged 23.7 points per game, which is a career high. It was 18th in the NBA as well. Average career highs in reboundings, assists per game, and field goal percentage after he only played 24 games in the 2017-18 season due to a second torn ACL. And both of them in the NBA he's torn.
I mean, even though he got outscored by Trae Young on his career high game, he still deserves this award. And of course, the one thing with Zach LaVine that you have to talk about is, I mean, his workouts were insane. I mean, I've watched those videos of him just bouncing back, and it's like, how do you tear your ACL and manage to do that?
It's like he never tore his ACL.
He's such a freak of nature with that. And his vertical is hands down probably the most impressive in the league, because not only does he have the most bounce, but his size.
And he had one of the more impressive dunk contests we've ever seen, or at least I've ever seen.
For sure. I mean, I just love what he did with the jersey too. I mean, that was always cool with the Space Jam jersey, and everything he did in that dunk contest was kind of like, well, man, chill.
And I thought, like, when he was a rookie, he was just, he's a high flyer, he's very athletic.
Now he can shoot.
He's turned into a very good scorer.
He can facilitate all of that.
A really good three-point shooter.
And moving down to the 2 was big for him. I mean, it kind of worked for both Dunn and him, just because they both benefited from it. Dunn put up his best season for sure. I mean, he didn't play. Did he? He was out, right?
He missed some time.
He was out. But when he was on there, he was playing his best basketball, and he just looked better than ever. I mean, since he was on the Friars back in college, and I mean, he had a lot of expectations himself. But back to LaVine, it just really, it's impressive to me what he was able to do. Put up all-star numbers and was a real snub, you could say.
Yeah,
for sure. Definitely.
And heading over to our next award now, Defensive Player of the Year. And one of my candidates was Paul George from the Oklahoma City Thunder, who led the NBA in steals per game and total steals. Also was 6th in defensive rebound rating among small forwards at 19.6, and 2nd in defensive rebounds per game among small forwards at 6.8.
So, I mean, for a while, George was my MVP winner and my Defensive Player of the Year.
He was my second for a while.
For MVP? Yeah, he actually, I had him winning for the month of January and February. I had him up there. Not even February, just January. He was, from then and before that, he was playing great. And he was just being my MVP candidate. I mean, the stuff that he did. He even had so many highlights. I mean, the thing that always I'll remember is that 4-point play against Philly.
And he was hitting big shots because, they talked about him. The only big shots he's hitting is in the Gatorade commercial.
Yeah, I know.
Like, he proved those people wrong that we're all talking about him, because he's hit a lot of clutch shots. We saw in the second to the last game of the season, even with that shoulder problem, he hit a corner 3, and that would turn out to be the game winner for OKC.
His game-winning floater, all of that. Everything that he's done this year was great, but the thing that is different between our other 2 candidates is he's kind of died down. Yes, he had an injury.
And since the shoulder sprain, he really hasn't been the same.
Nope.
I wouldn't say not defensively,
but
shooting-wise, he has not been able to shoot the ball that well.
So, on to my candidate.
Your candidate is Miles Turner, and he led the NBA in blocks per game and total blocks at 199, just one off 200. Also had the highest block percentage in the NBA at 76%, and was 7th among centers in defensive win shares at 0.127.
No, I think that Gobert could come out of nowhere and win this, out of nowhere.
He had a very good season. Also Andre Drummond.
Yeah, for sure. But I have Miles Turner winning this. I mean, Miles Turner is like, I mean, who reminds me of him? Mitchell Robinson. What Mitchell Robinson's been doing in the past couple games, or the last games of the season, he might just be the next Defensive Player of the Year next year. But Turner really executed his protecting the rim and being the big man that he's got to be, and play the defense that was key to the Pacers, and really showed that spark that we needed to see. It was not the whole season. I mean, not only did he improve on the 3-point, but his defense got even better, and that's just what kind of sealed the deal for me.
And improved on his rebounding as well.
Absolutely, for sure.
Rebounding.
Defensive rebounds.
And my top candidate was Giannis Antetokounmpo, who led the NBA in defensive win shares, not just power forwards, but in
that's
the
crazy.
NBA in defensive win shares at 0.179. His defensive rebounding percentage was 27.3, which was 14th in the NBA, 2nd in the NBA in defensive rebounds per game at 10.3, and his blocks per game at 1.53.
Ridiculous.
Led all power forwards. And 1.28 steals per game. That was 4th among power forwards.
So
I think he's the clear-cut favorite.
Oh yeah, for sure. I put Turner over there just because he's been a big man and he's improved. The thing that's impressive about Giannis, this is Giannis' first year at running a big 4. I mean, he was always the 3. So now this year doing what I did not expect him to do. I mean, just being a 4 and leading, doing what he did in blocks. He's not a natural 4. Right. People gotta realize he's not a natural.
Remember, he's like 6'11" now. He was 6'9" when he came into the league, and 50, 60 pounds lighter.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love Antetokounmpo and just what he's done for the league in ways. I mean, I'll never live past this. I say if he gets a shot by next year, he'll be the greatest of all time. You might not agree with that, but that's just what I think.
And
I mean, he's got the ace to do it.
He's one of the greatest right now. Just not of all time, but in the NBA.
No, yeah. Because, I mean, one thing that we can't do, like others can, I mean, if we look back on Michael Jordan's first couple years,
he wasn't that great of a shooter.
Exactly.
And he never particularly, throughout his career, he was never that great of a three-point shooter.
Absolutely.
Although he did improve, but he was never... He's not as good of a three-point shooter as LeBron
and now,
James.
Now look at what we call Michael Jordan. I mean, after five pretty good seasons, look what he ended up being, greatest of all time. Now Giannis, I think that, I mean, coming into 5 seasons in, and he's still young. He's much younger than Jordan was at this time.
And he's also, I don't want to say he's in better shape, but he's taller.
Absolutely.
He's heavier, so
I mean, he doesn't have the bounce.
He can get buckets easier in the paint.
He doesn't have the bounce like Jordan, but he has the ability to do. Just have that title, just because of what he does. I mean, he overall has a defense, he has a scoring ability, and if he can just do something in the playoffs this year, this is the opposite of what Michael Jordan went through. Because on that 5th year, Jordan needed more help. I mean, and then he didn't really get far past
that. Giannis has a really good team, too.
He does.
That's another thing that's helping.
And he's still outshining them by a lot, too. And that's why it's so big. But I could definitely see Giannis winning this. I just have turnover there as it. Because, I mean, I like seeing the 5 winning it a lot. I had Gobert winning it last year, too. I usually pick the 5. I mean, it doesn't always work, but it's just because it's more subtle. Because they're the... When I think of defensive players, I mean, I don't think of guys like Covington that are like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really, like, think of the guards. I always think of the big man. They're supposed to be the best defensive players.
And plus, big men usually win the award, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And heading over to our next award now, 6th Man of the Year. And my third candidate was Jordan Clarkson from the Cleveland Cavaliers, who finished 2nd in bench players in total points with 1,364, shot a career-high 84.4% for the free throw line, 16.8 points per game, played 81 games, all of them off the bench.
So I put Schroeder over Clarkson for my third candidate just because of what he did. And, I mean, his ability to kind of...
And he also did it in a winning environment as well.
Yeah, and do so much and go kind of unnoticed. I mean, the stuff that he was able to do was definitely really there. But someone got to talk about that. I don't even have him there anymore just because, I mean, yes, the injury, but, I mean, at one point, he was my winner, Dinwiddie, who at one point took this season by storm and really kind of surprised us with his ability to score and just put up some big numbers. But, of course, his injury had him out for 6 to 8 weeks, wasn't it?
I think he missed maybe 20 games this season.
Yeah, no, it was tough, and of course it definitely brought the Nets to not as much winning as they were facing at the start of the season.
Now they're back to it, and they got the 6th.
Absolutely, I mean they were close to missing the playoffs at one point, and they got to the 6th seed, which is obviously really big for them, making it to the playoffs the first time since 2013, 2012, right?
2015.
2015, okay.
Yeah.
So that's even
either way it's long.
That's more recent than I expected. But like, it's just what Dinwiddie did was obviously big, but I would put Schroeder as a bigger candidate just because the whole season he was the 6th man. Right. There was no question about it. Dinwiddie would sometimes start at the 2 or whatever. He wasn't always the 6th man.
Kind of flip flop.
Yeah, exactly. Schroeder was definitely a 6th man. And I can definitely see Clarkson too, just because of when he went to the 6th man spot, he killed it.
Definitely. My second candidate is Domantas Sabonis. He played 69 out of 74 games off the bench, put up career-high 14.1 points per game on 59% shooting from the field, and he didn't take many threes, but he shot 56% from behind the arc, which is just amazing for a power forward. Also, 9.2 rebounds, which was first among bench players, and he finished 2nd in total rebounds. And you love the analysis on him. A lot of announcers and analysts always say that he is a better version of his father, Arvydas Sabonis. I mean, if you look at the tape, Arvydas, of course, was able to use the pick and roll and make those flashy passes, and that's what Sabonis is doing. I mean, he looks even better than that. And now that he's got a 3 that's better than his dad's, and he can drive, because we saw kind of that soft, big guy style in OKC that he wasn't able to make as many plays as you wanted. He couldn't put back as much, and he made some good dunks. I've seen a lot of like his couple nice posters that he had in the paint, but he didn't have that electricity that he needed in the game. That like hype. Now that he has that coming off the bench, he definitely looks better. I think that system fits him perfectly as well.
So good, definitely.
Because he wasn't able to play enough, so he wasn't really able to showcase his talent, I don't think.
And we talked about that too, how he definitely comes off the bench and it fits. You wouldn't expect it. So I definitely have it as my number 2.
And he's also doing this. He's getting these buckets really quickly, just averaging over 24 minutes per game.
And that's not a lot.
He's not playing a lot.
He's not playing a lot whatsoever.
He's still putting up these numbers. My top candidate, though, is Lou Williams, and if he wins it this year, it'll be the 3rd time in his career, which is
crazy.
Just amazing.
He takes Jamal Crawford's award and says, I'm the 6th man.
Exactly, but he's averaging 20.1 points per game this season, which is 1st among bench scorers, 1st in total scoring, and 1st in total assists and assists per game.
And he broke the record this year for most points off the bench, and
yep.
I mean, it's impressive because one thing that I remember telling you was like, it seems like he plays more minutes than anybody. He doesn't play a lot compared to Dinwiddie and them guys. Like, he plays a good amount, but compared to some guys that come off the bench, he really fits it perfectly. And he does what he has to do to come off. I mean, he's a small too. He's a small.
He's like, what is he? 6'1", 6 foot. 6'1" if he's lucky.
Yeah, not like I'd say like 6. He's a small too. Like, he really, I don't know how he does that.
It's impressive.
It really is. It's
and
like
plus, he gets buckets like in any way, from the free throw line, from the 3-point
driving,
line,
anything,
fading away to the right or the left. It doesn't matter.
It's crazy. Like, his shot it's always been good, but this year it looks even better than it ever was.
And it's crazy because he's been in the league for over a decade and he's still putting up these great numbers. Kind of like Jamal Crawford has done.
And I love how when he was in Philly years ago, he wasn't even close to this. He just gets better each year. Like, how the more you go, I mean, like, Crawford was like that at one point. But now, I mean, he's older.
He didn't play much this year either.
No, yeah, he really didn't. He kind of reminded me of what they did with Ryan Anderson. They didn't play him whatsoever. That Suns management, that coaching was awful. Like, how do you play, like...
I feel like they have a lot of offensive talent, but they don't know how to use it.
And the defense, too.
The defense is really bad.
It's awful. But yeah, for sure, it's just impressive. And now on to...
Rookie of the Year, man. And I got Luka Doncic winning it, and Ciro's not too happy about that, but... Luka beat him in most of the categories. In points per game, Trae Young did have him in total points, though. Field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and rebounds per game. Luka also had him beat. Also averaged 1.07 steals per game. His team had a better record. They had 4 more victories. He was also 3rd in player efficiency rating at 19.61. All right, so what do you got to say about that?
All right, so I definitely agree with you with Luka Doncic winning. It's close, though. I don't like people that say... easily Doncic. Don't say that. You sound stupid.
It's really close because the field goal percentage, he's only up by just under 1. 3-point percentage.
And Trae Young's field goal percentage was awful at the start of the season. To see what he did, if there was... Okay, so here's what I have to say, right?
Right, if it was from later in the year, yep.
So, Luka Doncic wins. Yes. Absolutely. He wins.
Yep.
But it's very close. Doncic, Trae Young, right? And also, if this was a second half of the year award, Trae Young wins unanimously.
Because in the months of, I don't know...
From February
to April. I would say I think Trae Young is going to win.
Trae Young was averaging 25 in the month of February, let alone.
And he was still dropping dimes, and he's one of the best
passing point guards.
The point guard in the league. He's 1st among rookies in assists per game, but he's 7th in the NBA, not among point guards in the entire NBA. He's 7th.
And
as a rookie.
Most total points also. So he beats him in a lot of categories in totals too.
Right.
And of course, one thing that you have to mention is Luka should be getting those boards. I mean, there's nobody else on his team producing.
Right.
Trae Young had John Collins averaging 20 points and 10 boards at one point in the season. And even Alex Len was getting so many feeds. And Trae Young made everybody around him better. Huerter was shooting better. Prince was even looking pretty decent.
And Young had a better team as well.
Because of Young. Because when Young wasn't playing good, nobody else was doing good.
And Collins had finally catch a pass from somebody. He catch a lob from somebody. And how many passes did they have between those two? When Young would throw it up a lob to Collins.
Every game you'd see at least 2 alley-oops between them. I mean, like, if you
no one figured it out.
If you have the Hawks on Instagram, literally, when you scroll through the Hawks, it's just highlights of Young lobbing it up to Collins, because that's all they did. And that's a duo that's going to be deadly next year, because they're finally developed, and Young...
And they're going to get R.J. Barrett finally.
Yeah, definitely. And they're going to get a big man on the free agency, maybe Vucevic, you never know. But also, one last thing I want to say about this is Young wins my most improved player from the first half to the second half, just because what he was able to do. And, like, the stuff that...
Because nobody was talking about him, and I didn't have him...
Like, I believed in him from the get-go.
When we did the show earlier, I think I had Luka first... Then I had Jaren Jackson Jr. and I had DeAndre Ayton
above him.
And then I had maybe Young in the top 5. But
yeah, I had him number 2.
Now I have him as 2nd.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I'm not delusional. I just argue it because I'm a Hawks fan. Of course I'm going to argue that Trae Young is going to win. I don't think he's going to win. I know that Luka will win because of his start. But Luka's start fizzled at the finish, and his team went to the second. And you know who's getting that pick? Atlanta. So I don't think that it was worth it that much. Yes, you get Luka, but you don't have a lot of salary because you're still biting those contracts. I mean, isn't DeAndre Jordan's a player option?
DeAndre Jordan?
Yeah.
He's going to be a free agent at the end of the season.
But they still all right, so that's good. At least it's not a 2-year player option because that would have killed him because he always gets huge contracts. He's like a Hassan Whiteside.
Right.
He always gets huge options. But just losing them, I don't think that,
I think the Hawks have a better team. I think the Hawks, if they can get, as you talked about, maybe a Vucevic or maybe Cousins comes to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think Cousins would come to
I don't think he would want to come to Atlanta either.
If you get a good draft pick and RJ Barrett or Zion Williamson, I don't know if you're going to make it deep in the playoffs, but you can definitely be a contender because
if we get RJ
the Eastern
Barrett,
Conference is not that.
That's what we need. If we get RJ Barrett, because just looking at it like
if the Pistons make it, you guys can definitely make it.
Yeah. Huerter is already he's going to develop because people got to realize.
More.
Stop.
No? Oh, my fault.
Stop. Huerter is obviously more than a 3-point shooter. Not only does he got the shot, but he can drive. He can do it all. But if we get a 3, because I'm not happy with Prince. I wanted to deal Prince before the deadline because a lot of people he's valuable.
Well, there was rumors too.
Yeah, there was him and Dedmon.
I like Dedmon.
I like Dedmon more than Len, but I'm not the biggest Dedmon guy. And also just. Like you said, this is going to be a team that's going to be better next year, and I think Lloyd did a great job.
Yeah, I think so,
I think he really did. I mean,
they played a lot better in the second half of the season. They got more acclimated.
If we played the way we did the second half of the season, then it would have looked a lot better. But, hey, I just wanted us to tank. We did way better than I wanted us to do because I want a good pick. But it's looking like we could get Culliver.
I think it's 12.5% that you can get
the first, yeah. And I think one thing, too, if we don't get anything around that, they want, they were looking at the guy from Gonzaga, Raul, whatever. Hachimura, yeah. And Culver also, I mean, I'd be fine with that.
Another small
or Hunter. I would take DeAndre Hunter for sure.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for next season for the Hawks.
And heading over to our big award now, the most valuable player. And one of the candidates, me and Ciro, we hate to admit it, but it's James Harden. He led the NBA in scoring 36.1 points per game while shooting 87.9% from the free throw line, 7.5 assists per game, which was 8th in the NBA. He made the most threes, but he took the most threes.
And most free throws.
And he made the most free throws. He took the most free throws. He was also second in player efficiency rating at 30.62, and he also had some huge performances, including 3 60-point games and 2 50-point triple-doubles.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we hate to admit it. I mean, it's I want to burn my tongue after every time I say this, but James Harden had one of the best seasons. I mean, of course, the thing that just kind of gave it away for me was what his team was doing. His team is very good, and also his field goal percentage looks great.
44.2 and 36.8% from behind the 3-point line.
That's ridiculous. And of course, I mean, half of his points came from free throws. We don't gotta talk about that.
Yeah, whatever.
And his escalated game that isn't the most fun to watch.
It was nonetheless an amazing season for him.
Incredible. You can't deny that. I mean, you might not like to watch a full game like me and Richie. We don't like to watch full Harden games. We'll watch some highlights that isn't step like that. But definitely a candidate. But of course, on to our pick for the MVP.
And that is the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, who put up a career high 27.7 points per game, which was 3rd in the NBA, was 11th in the NBA in field goal percentage, 6th in the NBA in rebounds per game. He was also 1st among power forwards. We already talked about his amazing defensive stats. He led his team in points, rebounds, assists, field goal percentage, and scoring efficiency. He was also 1st in player efficiency rating, which just ties everything together.
And this was definitely the season that Giannis needs for his legacy. He needs this. He needs this award. He needs this.
Giannis is about to win MVP, Defensive Player of the Year,
and maybe a ring.
Finals MVP, and a ring.
Maybe a ring. That's crazy. Imagine that. This is the legacy of the lifetime. Because if he wins Defensive Player of the Year, because I think he will. Like I said, I just went traditionally for the 5.
I don't think he's getting enough talk though, because they're really talking about George and Gobert.
Yeah, for sure.
Not even Miles Turner that much.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they definitely talk about Gobert a lot. But like you just said, if he gets a ring, Finals MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year, that's already that's the legacy. I would be fine. I would retire right there.
He's a Hall of Famer if he already does.
If he does that one year, I mean, he'll be in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Exactly.
For the Hall of Fame for that enshrinement for sure. But I just love the mentions too that you give him. I mean, just so the way he was able to improve his points per game too at the end, what he was able to do, the way he finished the season, because I would say, what was it, 15 games before the end, we were saying, I think Harden's going to win. Nope, Giannis said, he's not winning.
Yeah, he took over.
And he killed it. So, great performance from Giannis in the season, comes with a great reward.
And our last award was top players that need to leave their team. They need to get out of town. And one of my candidates was Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards, who was 11th in the NBA in scoring, 25.6 points per game, while shooting nearly 48% from the field, nearly 81% from the free throw line, and was one of the top assisters and was at the top of shooting guards for steals per game as well.
And just overall scoring, I think it's obvious. I mean, if Beal goes somewhere, I mean, hey, Atlanta has a spot for you, man. You can go to your rival team.
Go to Atlanta as well, yeah. That'd be perfect.
But our next guy is who we really need to see. And I already have a place for him that's fit, and you're going to like it. And
it's Kemba Walker, who averaged 25.6 points per game, which was 12th in the NBA, shot 35.6% from behind the arc, 84% for the free throw line, 5.9 assists, and 1.24 steals per game.
Kemba needs to go. Kemba's a top 5 point guard. He's an incredible scorer. He does what he has to do, and he almost led one of the most disgusting rosters in the league to an 8 seed. He almost did that. And that's what's crazy. But I think that he'll go to Boston because Kyrie's leaving.
Yes. Have fun in New York or LA where you're going, Kyrie. I don't care. Or Brooklyn. Whatever. I don't care. Okay, listen. I'll take everything I said bad back about him if he brings us to the finals.
Yeah. That's it.
Even if we get swept, I'll take everything bad I said about him.
Yeah, because I think he's gonna go off in the playoffs, but he's had such a bad attitude where it's like, dude, whatever.
But he's had career high numbers too in assists and points per game.
This year we talked about it.
He's put up some great numbers.
We talked about it. His assists skyrocketed.
And it hasn't really translated into wins, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this too. When they don't play, when him and Hayward don't play, they win.
Yeah.
I mean.
No. When Hayward plays and he shoots better than I think like 50%, we're almost unbeatable.
Yeah, but when Kyrie doesn't play,
I think we're 10-2 without him.
Yeah.
So, yikes.
No, but Kemba plays. I mean, if he went to a team like the Celtics, he'd fit so well. He would fit so well because they're already like. There's not that much to say about it. We just know
he doesn't have much of an attitude. Doesn't have much of a personality.
His best player that he's ever had is probably Ben Gordon. Gordon or
Adam Morrison
or Michael Kidd-Gilchrist when he was the second overall pick.
Right, I don't know who's really that good on that
That's
team.
probably his best teammate.
Frank the Tank.
Kaminsky's okay.
Had a good season.
Kaminsky's okay.
He closed out the season pretty good.
He's solid. Honestly, that actually might be his best. I mean, I would not say Zeller. I would not say that for sure. I would say either Ben Gordon when he was going to the end of his season,
right?
Michael Kidd-Gilchrist or Frank the Tank.
And that wraps up our NBA honors, but now let's head over to the NBA playoff predictions. And starting off the Eastern Conference, we have the number 8 Pistons going up against the number 1 Bucks. And I have Milwaukee sweeping them 4-0.
I mean, this like in any series like this, you could see one game from the Pistons. I can see Blake getting at least one. Maybe.
Especially with a couple of the Milwaukee players out, but I still think Giannis is just going to
dominate. I mean, Giannis is going to average 33 in this series. He's going to average
33
and 33, yeah. No, 33 rebounds and 50 points.
He's going to go crazy.
It's stupid. He's going to definitely lead them to a domination. This is the round where they don't have to worry about, but honestly, if I'm Milwaukee, I want to lose 2 games just so I can let Brogdon heal. Because, I mean, it's not going to matter. Just so they're ready for the next round, because the next round's going to be tough without Brogdon for sure.
Because you're either playing the Pacers or the Celtics, and that really stinks the way the bracket was set up for Boston. Because if we win this series, hopefully we can.
Yeah.
That we have to play Milwaukee in the semifinals, not the conference finals, but the semifinals.
I know.
That's going to be tough.
That's going to be really tough. But if you get past Milwaukee, you're going to the finals. That's just my take. That's my take. If you get past Milwaukee, you guys are going to the finals 100%.
Because I think we can beat the Raptors and the 76ers.
Oh, you guys can beat the Raptors. You beat them every time in the regular season. You guys.
And same with Philadelphia. We own Philly.
Yeah, Philly.
Philly's our second home court. It really is.
Didn't Philly get their first win against the Celtics at TD for the first time?
Yeah, earlier this year, and then we beat them 4-1 last year.
Yeah.
Without Kyrie or Hayward.
I know. And then the funniest thing was the confetti.
The confetti.
Oh my god.
It was a tie game. That's just ridiculous. But heading over to the next series, the number 7 Magic going up against the number 2 Raptors, and I have Toronto with the sweep as well, 4-0 in this one.
I can see a sweep. I mean, Orlando is not like Orlando's kind of like a Make-A-Wish team. Like, how the hell did they get there?
I don't know.
Like,
how did they get a 6th seed too?
Like, I don't.
Maybe an 8th seed, but a 6th seed. That's impressive.
It's wild.
Or no, a 7th seed.
7th
seed, but
it's wild. I mean, the team isn't even that good. I mean, Vucevic and Gordon is a good front court, but we've talked about Gordon's struggles on the mentality. Same with Wiggins, and we know about this. We've already talked about it. And
Terrence Ross has those weird games where he comes off the bench.
He could be the greatest bench player of all time if he could actually be consistent.
If he could do it consistently.
If his 6-point games were 11-point games, he'd be the best bench player of all time.
Exactly. Heading over to the next series, the number 6 Nets going up against the number 3 76ers. I have Philadelphia taking this one, but in 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, I have it either 6 or 7. I could definitely see this being a long series just because you told me about it, the whole tendonitis thing with Embiid. That is not fun whatsoever. And, of course, it's the Nets. You got a kid in D'Angelo Russell who's got that heart.
And they always play very close games. Like the Nets, obviously they lost a good amount of times this season, but they don't lose by a lot. They don't get blown out often.
No, they don't. I would love to see them go far. I would love to see them. When I say that, I mean get past Philly. That's all.
Right, because they're not going to make it past.
This is a super team. This is a super team in Philly. If they can get past that, imagine if Boban outschools like he just gets the spot. That'd be stupid.
Right. In the final series in the Eastern Conference, the number 5 Pacers going up against the number 4 Celtics, and even though Marcus Smart, of course, is out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, I have Boston winning in 6.
I mean, of course, that's reasonable, but I have it going 7-4-3. Definitely gonna see a close series for sure. And I mean, these are 2 great teams who can definitely battle. And if this is I say, this is the tough thing, right? Mm-hmm. Pacers win, they're not getting past the Bucks.
No. The Celtics, I think, can actually put up a good fight against Milwaukee.
Yeah, for sure. But I think if they get past the Bucks, then they're winning. For sure. Or not even winning, making it to the finals. They're going to the finals.
Right. Now we head over to the Western Conference, and the number 8 Clippers going up against the number 1 Warriors. I have Golden State winning this in 5 games. I just think Los Angeles can take one game.
They're going to take one because it's so funky, and Rivers has some great experience in the playoffs.
Right, and then the number 7 seed, the Spurs, over the number 2 Nuggets, 4-2.
And we've been saying this for months that the Nuggets aren't getting past the first round no matter who, and this just fits it right there.
And I just don't think they have enough playoff experience. No. Greg Popovich is obviously a 5-time NBA champion. LaMarcus Aldridge has made it far, not really.
He's made it far with the Trailblazers. Second round,
right? And then DeMar DeRozan has made it to the conference finals.
Yeah.
I think they have enough experience. They have a solid team. That system is perfect. So, I have San Antonio winning this in 6.
Yeah, I mean it's easy to say San Antonio just because of the experience, and overall it's a good team. And Lonnie's back too, so that's huge for them. I mean, they didn't have Murray, who is easily the best defensive player.
Derek White is done.
Derek White has played very good, and Forbes. I mean, all them guys.
Very underrated rookie, I'd say.
Absolutely. I mean, he came out of nowhere too. White had a very solid game back at like mid-season. I remember. But that Spurs team is very fun to watch. And Rudy Gay's been balling very quietly. Yep. Moving to the 4 at some point, I remember.
And then sometimes he's coming off the bench, sometimes he's starting. Popovich kind of switches up.
And Popovich knows what he's doing. That's why it fits so well.
And that's why he's a 5-time champion.
One of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yep. Heading over to our next series, though, the number 6 Thunder going up against the number 3 Trailblazers, 4-2. And I think this would flip-flop for me if the Trailblazers had Jusuf Nurkic.
I mean, I think that it's going to 6 no matter what, but it could be any team. Nurkic is obviously the factor of they could go to the Western Conference Finals if Nurkic was there. But you look at it, the Thunder's depth on that team it's there. They finally clicked. It took them a while. It took them signing Markieff Morris out of complete desperate measures, but it's helped them. And we've talked about it. Grant looks great. He looks great.
He's
Ferguson can't shoot, but he definitely is solid. I mean, we've been talking. I mean, I'm a guy that's been knowing about Terrence Ferguson since his high school days, where he was an insane dunker. And this year,
he's
got hops. Him, McCogie, and Jones. Those guys are going to be the 3 that you got to worry about. We already know about Dennis Smith, but in the next 3 years, those guys' bounce is going to take over.
All he is athletic.
He's just athletic. He can't shoot that well.
Yeah.
He's so
his field goal percentage is terrible.
It's awful, and he's a crybaby too.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be a lot better than he was. I think there was a lot of hype around him.
I did too.
He hasn't lived up to it yet. But we'll have to wait and see with that. But over to our final series now. Number 5 Jazz going up against the number 4 Rockets, and Houston I have winning this series in 7 games.
Yeah, no. I thought for a second you said Jazz over them. I was like, oh, no.
No.
But
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Harden's definitely gonna lead them to it, and I just think that's really all you got to say about the playoffs for sure. I mean, the first round's always obvious, but the second round, nobody had the Celtics go. I mean, I don't even think you had them going to the Eastern Conference Finals like what they did.
Not right now, but I have to wait and see how they do against the Pacers.
I meant last year.
Oh, last year?
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was amazing. I think we were able to beat the Bucks. Milwaukee wasn't as strong as they were last season, and then we played Philadelphia, and I thought that was going to be a really difficult series.
Nope.
Then we won in 5 games.
Yep.
And then we were up 2-0 in the conference finals, and then
the Boston Massacre took place.
And then LeBron James took over, even though Jason Tatum dunked on him.
No.
But let's head over to our NBA news now, the final topic of this episode, and starting off with Kemba Walker, and he was asked if he'll play in Charlotte next season, and he said, quote, "I have no idea." And there were some possible teams I thought he could go to, the Pacers, Knicks, and Clippers.
I think that he would fit the best on the Clippers out of those 3.
Mm-hmm.
I still think he could pull a Celtic spot out of nowhere. I just think that
I can see that too.
if Kyrie leaves and he's still on the board somehow, then he'd go there for sure.
Mm-hmm. There was some couple coach firings, starting off with the Cavs firing head coach Larry Drew. They also fired head coach, the Grizzlies fired head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. And this just doesn't make much sense to me because
their goal was to tank.
But what do you expect out of these guys? Like, the Grizzlies don't have much. They were dealing with injuries a lot this season. They traded away a bunch of their players.
Their goal was to tank.
Agency.
It makes no sense. Why would you fire a coach when you are rebuilding? It makes no sense.
How do you fire Larry Drew? You lost LeBron James. You lost Kyrie Irving. You know, Kevin Love missed a bunch of time this season.
And the worst one...
What do you expect?
Yeah, I know. Talk about the worst one.
Luke Walton.
I mean, that...
He got fired from the Lakers.
I mean, that's reasonable. That's reasonable.
He is also now the, quote, first choice for the head coaching vacancy for Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is the worst one. Firing Yeager?
I don't understand that either. And we talked about it last episode, or a couple episodes ago, that he led them to their best record since 2006. But the front runners for the Lakers are Tyronn Lue, the former head coach of LeBron James, and the 76ers assistant coach, Monty Williams.
I mean, I like Monty Williams. I mean, he wasn't the best coach when he was solo. But he, I mean, definitely Lou, like, it's like, all right, that's kind of messed up. It was definitely planned. It was definitely planned. LeBron was like, all right, Magic, you're going to leave, and I'm going to take over.
Yep, I'm
LeBron
going to be the GM. LeVar Ball, the head coach. Right, it might just happen.
That would be awful. Oh, my God. That would be so bad. No BBB either.
Right. But, heading over to some more news now. Cam Reddish has declared for the 2019 NBA draft, and obviously he just...
You hate him.
But, you got to go for the money, but I don't think he's ready.
I don't think he's ready.
In his 2018-2019 season with Duke, he shot 35.6% from the field, averaging 13.5 points per game. That's the third prospect coming out of high school. And then in 3 games of March Madness, one of the games he missed due to a knee injury out of nowhere, he averaged 11 points per game on 40.2 shooting percentage.
Cam Reddish was my favorite high school player, and he...
And I'm not saying he can get better, but I think he should just wait. But obviously...
He needs to wait.
You're going to be getting millions of dollars.
And Taco needs to go 5 years. Taco needs to go 5 years.
Right.
Dude, Reddish was so good in high school. He could do it all, and this year he just wasn't. He shot the ball way too much.
He just bricked threes.
It sucks. It really does. But hopefully, I mean, I wish him luck. I don't want the Hawks to draft him. I swear to God,
please don't. No.
If you draft him,
you'll get Zion or RJ. You don't gotta worry about that.
Now they're gonna rig it for New York for sure.
Right. But heading over to some more news, OG Anunoby underwent emergency appendectomy after being diagnosed with acute appendicitis, and he will be sidelined for Toronto for 2 weeks. Now, he's a pretty solid defender off the bench, can hit the three here and there, good energy guy.
I must say, I don't know a single word that you said in that sentence, but that sounds really bad.
Like appendicitis right here?
Okay, yeah.
That's what it is.
But, like, I mean, Anunoby wasn't as important off the bench as it was last year, because last year was pretty big. I mean, he's a good 2.
And Kawhi Leonard kind of took over his spot.
Kawhi kind of said,
Kawhi,
unless I'm at home on the couch, you're not playing.
Right. Kawhi said, "I don't really care about your growth as a player. It's all about me."
Dude,
right
I
now."
don't care. I'm playing this year.
I'm gonna go crazy.
Go.
But heading over to some more news, couple things left. Joel Embiid is unsure if he will play in Game 1. He's dealing with knee pain. He also mentioned that he may have some tendonitis.
Oh, it stinks. I mean, that's the worst. I know that. I mean, you don't want to deal with that. And of course, knee problems are really the worst for big guys. I mean, it's the worst. If you're tall and you have knee problems, you're not going to play that.
And I feel bad for him because I really think he could be one of the best centers.
He's an MVP candidate for next year.
But I think he could be an MVP candidate, but he just can't stay healthy. And, it's really,
and he turns the ball over way too much.
Yeah, once he gets the ball in the paint, he loses it a lot. But he has to average 3 or 4 turnovers a game.
Yeah, I mean, there was that game where he had like 11 turnovers against the Thunder. That was so dumb.
But our final bit of news now, Billy Donovan is unsure if Paul George will play in Game 1 due to a shoulder injury he's been having since a little bit after the All-Star break. He missed 3 straight games and then he came back, but he really hasn't shot the same. Defensively, he's still been good as we talked about.
Yeah, but like
shooting-wise,
his 3-point
percentage, field goal percentage really hasn't been the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I always say, it's tough with that situation for them. But I think that they have enough depth to definitely be okay. And honestly, what you could do for the first game, if George isn't playing, move Ferguson to the 3 and Schroeder go to the 2 maybe.
You need another scoring option.
Yeah, you definitely do.
And he averaged, I think, 16, 17 points per game. So
yeah, he was at 17 at one point. But, I mean, that wraps it up for our Honors Awards. It was way more accurate than it was before since the season has officially ended, and that is when the awards matter the most. We talked about our playoff predictions and, of course, the NBA news. You're watching Straight Facts, Ritchie and Ciro. Tune in next time.